Good afternoon, everyone. And I'm sure that more will continue to join. I'm happy that just 2 minutes in, we have about 20 people joining us, and I'm sure that we'll get several more. For those of you who are in the viewing audience, as well as for our panelists, this is being recorded and will be on our YouTube channel so that those who were unable to be with us today will have the opportunity to go back and view it and share it, because I do believe that this is going to be a wonderful panel and I truly am excited about it. So first and foremost, I need to introduce myself. I have the pleasure of serving under our president, Dr. John B. Cook, as the Vice President of Advancement and External Affairs here at the institution. And I just want to take a moment to acknowledge all who helped to make today possible. In particular, our Marketing and Communications Director, Keith Paul, our Office of Multicultural Affairs Manager, Vanetta Smith, our Director of Community Engagement, Lydia Early, as well as my colleague in Cabinet, Vice President Darcy Kemp, and so many others who helped to ensure that today was possible. So to our viewing audience, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules. We know that most people nowadays are just so zoomed out, but we promise to not disappoint. We promise that what you will hear today from our esteemed panelists will resonate with you both professionally and personally. And we implore you to take away, some of the pieces of advice, some of the answers that we hear from them, and share them with your networks. And if you're STCC employees, we ask that you think about those things when you're doing your day-to-day work, when you're teaching, when you're interacting with your colleagues and with students, and try to ensure that we're able to continue to follow our mission of transforming lives here at STCC. So without further ado, I want to take a moment and introduce you all, our panelists for this afternoon. Yanira Aviles, who is a recent graduate. She just finished this past May and earned her associate's degree in earned her associate's degree. She also served as our student representative on the Board of Trustees. Next, we have Rose Colon, who might not necessarily be a graduate of STCC, but attended STCC and then transferred on. And we'll hear more about why we thought she could provide some real insight to both current and prospective students. Ms. Colon is currently an attorney and graduated from Western New England University Law School. In addition, we have Carlos Colondres, who graduated from STCC in 2019 and is currently at the Isenberg School of Management at UMass Amherst, working on his degree in Operations and Information Management. Next, we have Sheldon Smith, who earned a business administration degree in 2016 and went on to transfer to Elms College. He now serves as the Membership and Operations Coordinator for Make It Springfield. And last, but definitely not least, actually one of my sorority sisters, Kara Woolridge, who is a 2016 graduate from the STCC Occupational Therapy Assistant Program. She also went on to complete her Master's of Science in OT and currently works at Baystate Wing Hospital in Palmer. So thank you all, and I'm so pleased to have you here. But before we go on, I'd be remiss if I did not acknowledge my co-moderator and the leader of our institution to bring greetings, Dr. John B. Cook, President of STCC.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Vice President Hurst, much appreciated. Thank you, everyone. This is an esteemed panel that we have, and we're thrilled to have this conversation. I'm often fond of discussing our two middle names, and certainly when community is one of them, it means both a duty and obligation to listen and to find ways like this to hear, and in particular in this case, to hear from our alums. You are often those who can ensure we know exactly what was successful, what worked, what was helpful, and to learn lessons about your journey. So I'm thrilled about this coming together. I definitely will defer to Denise's facilitation skills. She is a master in that way, but I will hope to add a question or two here or there. I've had a chance to get to know a couple of you in some different contexts. As was mentioned, Yanira this past year was a student trustee. And there is a lot, I think, that she draws from that experience, having seen some of the things that may feel mundane around our budget and our governance, but as a trustee, a very important consideration for us. So really looking forward to the conversation, everyone. Thank you for the time.
Fantastic. So before we jump into the program, just want to take a moment and make sure I provide an overview of the forum. So we have some prepared questions that we will ask our panelists. Throughout the presentation, their bios will be scrolling through, and I'm sure you'll get to hear a lot more about them as they speak and call on their experiences. But at some point, towards the end, we'll definitely open it up so that those in the viewing audience have an opportunity to ask some questions of our panelists. So without further ado, I will ask the very first question, and we'll go in order based on alphabetical per the last name. And I do just want to say to the other panelists, if there's something that is you know, really you know, that's jumping out for you and you want to comment, we welcome you to do that. We really, really do. So even if we pose, you know, a question and something comes up, we ask that you just jump right in. So great. All right. So Yanira, first on the hot seat. Could you tell us what was the most influencing factor in you deciding to attend STCC?
Sometime in 2015, I had an epiphany. I realized I can change my life, that I was the problem. I sold myself short of the amazing person I know I am. I knew then that if I didn't move forward, I had no future to look forward to. With 2 of my 5 kids under my care and a high school dropout, making money really wasn't the problem. It was making the correct money. And that's where my kids' ultimate retirement would be. So I knew that without change came no glory. My kids deserved that. I didn't want them to think as me as a failure, but as a resilient fighter.
Thank you so much. Rose, would you mind answering the very same question? What made you think about attending STCC? And in your particular situation, if you could just elaborate on, because I know we had an opportunity to talk on how CC was that entree into, or that entryway into academia or higher education.
Wow, but that first answer from Yanira was pretty powerful. So next time I'm going to have to change my last name or add my maiden name or something so I can go after someone else. That was a pretty powerful entrance. But I would say it was pretty much kind of the same thought process. At the time, you know, I had grown up in Springfield. I was a product of Springfield Public Schools. And I was one of those people that didn't make it. I was a high school dropout. And so I had, from that moment on, become a statistic. And my entire life, I had always wanted to achieve a dream, which was I wanted to be a lawyer. And when I didn't graduate from high school and I became a statistic, I was lost a little bit. I didn't know where to get into the academic world. I knew that the only way that I was going to ever achieve anything in life for my dream, not for anybody else's dream, but for mine, was to have an education. You can't become a lawyer without an education. And even though I wish there was some Instagram way that I could go, I had to start really dedicating myself to something and start somewhere. I didn't know where to go. The only thing I knew was that in high school, there was this huge fortress of a building that was right across the street. And it was a college. And I remember the high school students, my classmates, the really smart ones, were able to go to STIC while they were in high school. It was just like, you know, an honors class or something like that. And I wasn't that student just yet. You know, I hadn't reached that level of discipline that some of my fellow high school students had at the time. You know, I was allowing my environment to get a hold of my life at the time. And so after I dropped out and I started working and I started working in the field that I love, I realized the job that I had wasn't enough to fulfill my dreams. It wasn't enough. So I had to put in the work. And so I knew that STIC was the way to get there. I knew that STIC was the foundation that I needed to prove to myself that I can actually be a student in college, that I can actually challenge myself academically, that I would be disciplined enough to make it through a class, that I would listen objectively and analyze things rationally and have a final product. And so I went to STIC and I started going one class twice a week. And that little bit was so challenging for someone like myself who didn't have the foundation at home that you definitely need in order to be successful. And little by little, STIC was there. I learned how to fill out my own financial aid forms. I sat outside in the hallway waiting to speak to the admissions people. I spent time talking to the bookstore lady, you know, trying to get the best deal on overpriced books. And yes, President, they are still overpriced at a community college. And eventually I got enough footing that I felt comfortable and confident in my academic ability. And there it goes. That's
Rose, what year were you at STCC?
Oh man, that was probably in 2003, 2004.
No, it's good because, you know, for this audience, but also for folks who are watching, the idea of the right choice sometimes just starts with that one class, right? That you decided to just come to us 2 times a week, because sometimes we do want to fast forward to the part where all of a sudden you're a lawyer.
Yes.
There are so many steps, right, from where you started to here. And I think it's so valuable for people to know. It just starts with that small, sometimes really big decision to just take that one class.
Yes, and it's so true. I mean, everyone that I speak to usually tell me, wow, like, you're a lawyer now. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh my God, that's so amazing. You know, it seemed just like yesterday. And I said, well, no, it wasn't just yesterday. It took a long time and it took a lot of dedication. So yes, STIC was that place for me. You know, that was the first step in the one of many steps that opened the door for me, basically.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rose. Carlos, tell us.
Okay.
We know that your path has indeed required quite a bit of dedication, and you
Yes.
to stick to it and really, oh, did you hear that? Stick to it.
Yeah.
Being able to stick to it and demonstrate quite a bit of success. And I know that you continue to work towards even more. Tell us, what was the decision for you to attend STCC?
So I don't have one specific one, right? I have many. So to start, I'll say that I stopped being a good student when I left grade school, right? So like past 5th grade, it was awful, you know. I barely made it into high school to start, and I had to go to summer school in order to graduate. So for me, I had to go to a community college. You know, I had no other choice but to. And cost, of course, was big. You know, because you know it's definitely less expensive than going to a 4-year. And I love the fact, this is what stuck with me, that after 2 years I get a degree. You know, opposed to you go to a 4-year and you say you can't finish after 2 years. You just have a bunch of credits that may not end up being transferable. And I graduated from commerce. Went to commerce, so every day for 4 years I'm looking at stick, you know, and but at the time it was like, it was kind of taboo. It was like nobody goes to stick, you know. It was like that's really how everyone felt, you know. And I can say that, you know, the reason for me not wanting to go to stick then is the reason that I wanted to go now, because it's in Springfield. You know, it's where I grew up, and it was a part of my community, you know, and I'm glad I made the choice.
Fantastic. Right. Sheldon?
Yeah.
I know that you took an interesting path, right? You came in through workforce development and then ended up matriculating.
Yeah. Similar to Carlos, I had a similar experience. I too graduated from the High School of Commerce some time ago.
I'm
And
seeing a trend. Rose, you went to commerce as well?
Yes, I did. I did go to conference.
We didn't mean to do it that way, everybody. But
We really didn't, and so did Kara.
wow.
Red Raiders unite.
Wow.
I think it's a little about kind of coming home, something like that. But yes, so after graduating, I chose a different path. There was definitely a kind of a vibe surrounding going to STIC, which was the school across the street, that really held a lot of people back from taking advantage of a good education there. I went on to another school. I went on to Westfield State College at the time. And at the time, I just wanted to further my education and to do it as high as possible. And that was the choice in pathway that I chose to take. I didn't complete my courses there. However, I knew that I needed to continue on. So at the time, I was young, slightly immature at the time, and ended up going to STIC for just one semester, but really wanted that experience of staying on campus. And STIC didn't have that opportunity. However, as an adult, fast forward, 15 plus years, we'll say that. After having children, trying to guide them into taking the proper steps in their education and taking it seriously, I realized with some pretty good occupations that I had at the time, none of them were as full-fledged as I really wanted. I wasn't really fulfilled, and I just knew I wanted better. So going by the question that was asked is what was like a influencing or deciding factor, is I knew I wanted to go back to school. I looked at a few options. I'm no longer going to name names as far as where I was looking, but STIC was home. It was like hometown. It was something I was familiar with. I at one point worked at STIC as well during my time at the High School of Commerce. So I was already familiar with it. So I figured I would just cast my ballots and I would give it a try. And the real deciding factor was the hometown, the affordability, and then the amount of support that I got in recruitment. Now, the person that actually helped me make that decision, didn't try to persuade me in any way, but just stood by me and tried to support me in this decision to continue on in my education. That person would be Lydia earlier. She definitely, I won't say held my hand, but showed me all the possible options and showed me where I was at and how easy I could re-enter school as an adult learner, a full-time parent, at the time a 2 part-time job worker, and soon to be a full-time student. So definitely juggling quite a bit at the time. It was very seamless from the enrollment process, registering, and finding a career path prior to actually getting into it. And it was amazing. It was actually the year 2016. I went into a new cohort program, which was a certification program for customer service, which I had already had about 20 years of experience in that area, but knew that there was more for me. Long story short, it was a complete success.
Fantastic.
More success than I had even imagined I would possibly have encountered. And I did that at STIC. Made the dean's list, nothing but honors through the certification program, furthered on to get my business administration associates. Knew I couldn't stop there. Again, completed with honors. Nothing like I had done before. And then transferred to STIC. I'm sorry, not to STIC, to Elms College, where I'm currently working on my bachelor's in marketing and management. And because I was still part of this community and didn't go too far off, I became really involved in community engagement, multiple organizations within the city. I could definitely say that it was a springboard for my activation, being involved in the community, being involved in others' lives, inspiring my family and my children as well. And now currently am working at, volunteered first, but now working at Make It Springfield, where I can help a multitude of people within my city, being born and bred in Springfield, Massachusetts. And I can definitely say to this day, STIC helped me with that.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Sheldon. Kara, you're on. Last but not least, again. I swear we'll start with you first next time.
Always last because of my name, so I'm used to it. Okay, I'm patient. I grew patience.
All right.
As you know, I too is a graduate from the High School of Commerce and STIC. You know, I can kind of relate to Carlos when he said it was kind of like a stigma of attending, you know, STIC after commerce. My story is a little different. I went to STIC after attaining my bachelor's degree. So I had a 4-year degree. I came home and I knew I needed to get a graduate degree, and I applied to graduate school. I did not get in, and I was really lost. I was really at a low point in my life, really didn't know what to do, working 2 jobs. And my mother told me to apply to STIC, and she went to STIC, and she, you know, that word, you just mentioned the word springboard. She went to STIC and used it as a springboard. My older sister went to STIC and used it as a springboard. And one real big reason I chose STIC was because I remember they had like Wednesdays you can go and get immediately accepted to school. And so I did. I was like, I know I can get in. So I went and I got in and I took my prerequisites. So I had access. It was accessible to me. Financially, it was a good choice. I didn't have to spend a lot of money for prerequisites. And not only did I take prerequisites for grad school, but I took prerequisites for the CODA program there. I did not get into grad school, like I said, and so I got into the CODA program, which was an opportunity. So not only was it financially wise of me And not only did I have access to it, but it provided an opportunity that I otherwise didn't have access to. So those were some of the main reasons why I chose STIC, and it was really humbling for me with my 4-year degree. I thought I was big and bad coming in there, and then I end up at a community college. So it really is a gem in the city. We take things in our own cities for granted, but STIC really is a gem, and it's something that we should really utilize and kind of convey to the students across the street at that big building at Commerce that, hey, don't have this stigma towards STIC, because you can really use it for your benefit. So those are some of the reasons why I chose STIC and how it really transformed my life.
Yeah, a brief.
Look, I want to.
Yeah,
I was going to say, I know you must want to say something.
just a brief follow-up. Our health programs, our healthcare programs, right, are pretty signature for us. And Kara, I believe you did occupational therapy assistant with us when you did. I'm curious. Hindsight, of course, is 2020. If STIC ultimately was the right choice for you, and you found our way, and that helped you enter that really important health profession, is there something the college could have said differently to the 18-year-old version of yourself, as opposed to the 22-year-old version with the bachelor's degree? Because we see this, we actually see a fair number of people in our health programs having gone out and earned a bachelor's only to come and find their way back to us. And so it's elusive sometimes, because as you pointed out, sometimes you got to take a ladder approach. You needed to take a biology class, some of the other ones before you maybe even applied. So I'm just trying to know, is there something that you know, as opposed to we should talk to your mother again, about the 18-year-old version of yourself hearing this differently?
I think one of the problems why I had that opinion of STIC was because it was just coming from my friends, and I did not have a relationship with a counselor. I don't ever remember a meeting with a counselor at the school who was able to guide me in the right direction. When it came to applying for college, that was on me and my family. No one encouraged me. No one spoke to me about my options in the community. No one spoke to me about loans and what that meant and the financial burden of going to a 4-year college versus a community college. No one spoke to me in the school about how choosing a community college and letting that be the springboard for transfer into another college and how I can use that for my benefit. So the 18-year-old me was just say, I was brought up and raised that you go to school, you go to college. There really wasn't any option. It was just like matriculating from 11th grade to 12th grade to freshman year, and that was it. So when I came home, and if you could, then go to 4-year college. If you can't, then go to STIC. But I could, so I went. So I think if I was an 18-year-old today in 2020, I would really need someone to really explain those things to me, because as the 18-year-old, I don't understand the debt that comes along with a 4-year institution versus the amount of debt I can, save on if I went to STIC. Those things are the things that really matter in the long run. And STIC provided me the same opportunity as that 4-year institution, just kind of with a less expensive price tag and more supports, to be honest. I had a lot of support at STIC. It was personalized for my goals and the things I wanted to reach in my life. It was really it was the best decision I made educationally. It really was kind of the transformational part of my educational experience. I don't know where I would be without STIC, just speaking honestly.
If I can just say something really quickly, because I think you see kind of a similar thread throughout. I think it's not only with people who graduate from commerce, but I think in the city of Springfield, it is a very depressed economically city. You have high rates of high school dropout rate. So really what I would say is that I agree with her in the sense that if you want to get to the students early, whether they're rising a ladder or kind of figuring out, jumping from ladder to ladder, like, okay, I'm doing something, I really am interested in one thing, but then all of a sudden this may come up and pop up for me. I would suggest getting to the kids a little earlier than high school. And the reason I say that is because, as you heard Carlos saying, and a lot of students, you really start getting associated with friends and certain people in middle school, or we called it junior high. I'm aging myself, sorry. But in junior high is when really you get your kind of your clique, in a sense, the people who you're starting to associate with outside of your family household, right? Your family dynamic is starting to kind of evaporate as you're starting to find your own independence. And what we don't have in Springfield is financial literacy for students. With financial literacy for students in junior high, in early high school, they can really start making that analysis like, okay, should I be going to a four-year college? Is it worth it to go to a four-year college if, you know, really my main goal is to be a contractor, you know, or to get into the electrical business, you know, or, you know, there are so many other areas and professions that we don't give the time and value to. You know, we always push these liberal arts, and I'm a liberal arts baby, but we always push these liberal arts. But in reality, in a city like Springfield, where the social economic, you know, level is pretty low, there are a ton of people who really want to learn how to make money, make a living for themselves, take care of their families, take care of their children, take care of their, you know, elderly parents. And not everyone wants to go, you know, like to have some highbrow job. My nephews right now are both in the electrical company and the gas company. And both are thinking, oh, you know, I need a degree, I need a four-year degree. And I'm like, no, you don't. You can get a 2-year and associate's degree right at STIC. You can get an associate's degree. You can get your contractor or the requirements for your contracting license, and you can really make, you know, good money. And I think that you start that early, because once you're in high school, it's kind of like you're just hanging out. You know, it's like, hey, you're just coasting. Like, man, listen, you know, we get to be next to Dunkin' Donuts, you know, or it used to be Burger King back in the day, but Burger King before it closed. And so if STIC was to really do like a career fair, but not in high school, but start in middle school, I think you would really start reaching out to those students that are kind of uncertain, that have dreams, but don't have the understanding of how to get to that dream.
Oh, look.
Can I chime in real quick?
They're winning me.
In response to Rose, we currently at
You're an
STIC,
adult.
I had to look up the name. It's the Early College Career Pathway Program. And we currently work with Commerce High School and West Springfield High Schools, and students from 10th, 11th, and 12th grade can actually get college credits while they're still in high school. So we are already attacking that situation. So the students in those grades can be like, yes, that's what I want to do.
Well, I know that they've been doing that at STIC. I mean, I kind of mentioned that at STIC, that when I was in high school, we had students who attended STIC, you know, at the same time, and they got college credits. But really, how do you get them to STIC? I think it starts younger for some reason. And, you know, I don't want to sound like a boomer or, you know, but I do look at my children and I see that they are much more aware of their surroundings and their environment, their, you know, their city, their state, their world, because of technology, and they're starting to do that much earlier. So when I was in high school, and I'm like, okay, you know, I'm in high school, that's really when I'm starting to forge those friendships. It really started in junior high. So these kids are really starting in 6th grade. You know, they're wondering, what are they gonna do with themselves?
Can I just mention one school?
Sure thing. So and then after junior, I'm going to jump in because I also
Renaissance, because Renaissance is from middle school to high school, and they're already starting in Renaissance. So that's 6th grade. I think that's early enough, and they're college ready.
So I think you both make really, really great points. And I do think that there are different initiatives that are happening, whether it's at STCC, in the city, in some of our local school districts. I think that what I'm really hearing is that there's not enough awareness and not everybody knows about what's out there. And so we all really need to be ambassadors. I heard Yanira jump in and want to talk about, what STCC was doing, but we all really need to be ambassadors around sharing these pieces of information and these resources so that, students, families, everyone has an opportunity to learn more about what's at their disposal. And really quickly, before I hand it off to Dr. Cook, I will also just add, okay, I was looking for Lydia on the screen, is that our Director of Community Engagement, was able to stand up after 10 years, College for Kids, which is a summer program to make sure that kids as early as school had access to that big building behind that wrought iron fence so that they and their families knew about STCC way before they got to, the 11th, 12th grade when they started that potential college planning. Go ahead, Dr. Cook. I'm sorry.
No, this is great. Two notes, and again, I'll just put a fine point on some of those to Yanira and Rose points, both well taken. Let me say this on the front end. This in some ways is what a community college is, by the way. Our average age student, right, is 26. We are there for adults who ultimately, like we've heard from Carlos all the way through Rose, Yanira, Sheldon, right, is that sometimes it takes into our adult years for us to make this choice. And that's why we have the affordable option right here in the city. So I don't want to lose track that it's somehow either or and that we're only going to focus on high school students. You all as adult students are also a significant part of our consideration. So I just want to put a fine point on that. Yes, to Denise's point, and to great credit to she and Lydia Rivera early, who resuscitated that brand, that College for Kids experience that we used to have for 11 to 17-year-olds. Denise herself was a participant in the not too distant past, right? So these are the things that we're trying to do on both sides of this notion of choice.
Yeah. So really, I'm gonna steer away from questions because just so much has come up and really great stuff, and they're in line with some of the ones that we proposed. But I think it's really important to highlight some of the pressing issues that were just brought up. And so last night I had the opportunity to watch Dr. Joe Biden speech at the convention, and she talked about her career as a community college professor. And this morning when I woke up, again, it was all over the airwaves, her speech, and she really honed in on community colleges. And so I do think that what she did right on that national platform was raise awareness around the roles that community colleges have, not just now because we are in the midst of COVID, but because she understands, like Dr. Cook just talked about, that it is an opportunity for our traditional students and our students who are looking for pathways to increase their earning potential and their skill set. And so I guess what I would ask, and I will pop over to Carlos, is we know, right, and we'll just take the city of Springfield, that our Black and Latinx boys are some of our most vulnerable when it comes to graduating high school and or completing college. What would you say to them? How would you recommend STCC to them? And Sheldon, I'll come to you for that as well.
How I would basically start with my experience, because I've gone to different schools before. I won't name any, but I went to 2 other community colleges. But when I got at STIC, it was different for me. And I won't say it may not be different for everyone, but for me it was different because it was just so much more accommodating for me. I had a really wonderful advisor, and I know I wanted to study business, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And we were able to formulate a plan, and she helped me find a way to utilize all of my credits and not lose any to be transferable. And then also the support I got from the professors, because I worked full-time. I was a manager at a recycling plant, and I also went to school full-time, and I also have a wife and children. So I was super busy, and there were times when, you know, some of the assignments I couldn't do, you know, on time. And I did have to ask for some leniency and explain my situation. And I just always got the support that I needed. And I would say, you know, maybe just, you know, working and having a family and going to school is really difficult. It's not easy, but it's not impossible. And I would say mainly the support that I got from STIC just made everything possible for me.
How about what do you think, Sheldon? And in particular, for maybe some men who are older in age, right? Who are in the midst of raising families like you were. How would you recommend STCC and to them?
Was that for me?
No, for Sheldon.
Oh, okay.
You're muted.
So I was looking to address the question that you first asked.
Sure, address it.
So I'll just jump on it really quickly.
Yeah.
One of the things that I could say for the younger boys of color, not of color as well, is there's a spectrum of preparedness for higher education, period. When it comes down to your financial awareness and literacy, as we call it, just being ready for that. That's one thing. Very rarely is someone completely prepared for that, or has a family that's completely prepared to instill in them exactly what they need to know, exactly where they need to go. It's very rare. For going into particular fields. It doesn't matter if you're in high school, in middle school, or a senior just graduating, and it's very likely to be not sure exactly where you're going to land and not land exactly where you plan. So packaging community college, which has that stigma, as something that is smart, and a huge part in the middle of that word being the letter A is attainable. And STIC is extremely attainable. Having all the support that you need when it comes to financial support, when it comes to enrollment, registering for all the right classes. Carlos hit the nail on the head when he mentioned credits, the proper credits, taking the right classes that will be transferable, that allow you to go into something else. The attainability of it, for myself, I got a certification as well as the associates all within 2 years. When you're looking at going to a 4-year school, yes, after that first 2 years, you just got some credits. That's about it. You can actually use what you have worked hard for over that prior 2 years to get into the workforce as well as transfer on. And I've never seen as much support in the 3 different places that I went for education that I've seen at STIC. At the financial aid office, I was not too sure exactly how I was going to pay for it. I found the help. I was given scholarship options. I gained a full scholarship to STIC that was just amazing. Of course, I had to do the work in applying, filling out an essay. And this was for the next potential 4 years of school. So that's exactly where I'm at right now. And do not be afraid to say, I'm going to take a step into it. Taking a step into STIC and just asking the questions. Compare it to other places. Do your due diligence. Compare it to other places, and you'll see that the counselors, the advisors, the people in financial aid is very personal. They're really connected. They really want to see you not just enter school, but see you get set on a good path to success. Now, I think you mentioned older.
Well, I think you covered it. I think it's fine. Absolutely. I think you definitely covered it. I think you both raised some really great points, and I'll defer to the ladies, and not that you necessarily have to answer that same exact question. I heard Rose say it earlier. You know, I have 2 nephews and I've recommended to them STCC. But Yanira, as the most recent graduate of the bunch, you know, would you recommend STCC to others, and why? That's on you, Yanira.
Yeah, I noticed. So I like to write things down, right? Because I want to be able to make sure that I say everything that I want to say the right way, right? So even though this might not be starting as what your question is, but it answers it, because without this, I wouldn't be able to explain why I would even want somebody to come to STIC. So I want to start by saying that I was privileged enough to go through the down and dirty. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not a bad thing, right? So I've been at STIC since December 2015. I came in lost, scared, and broken. And the staff at the Adult Basic Education Department, like Alexis Batra, Tanya Harden, and Jay, may he rest in peace, were amongst a few people I can mention that went above and beyond. Without them and their support, I would have never made it out. Graduating with my mindset and moving forward into real college, I had no clue what I was getting myself into. But signing up for TRIO Student Support Services changed my life. They helped me with everything I needed, I wanted, and for sure still wanted in my future. I was able to do resumes, research, sign up for classes with ease, knowing I had a team behind me the whole way, because every good leader has a team helping them along the way. Everyone from the guys at the parking lots to the maintenance to the staff, everyone is always eager to help, to push, to motivate with a smile. Thank you, and I see you later. Being able to be part of the student trustee and was the most amazing experience I had. I've learned so much in my life, and I still have so much to continue learning. So would I recommend STCC? Absolutely, because STCC is community. STCC is affordability, sense of peace, in knowing that there's a community college right here, like in your backyard, right? That makes you feel welcome, accepted, encouraged in a diverse, multicultural environment. So why not go there? Why not tell people, hey, you have an opportunity, you can make it out. Like if I can make it out, like I graduated still counting with my fingers, and they accepted it. So yeah, absolutely, I'll recommend it. And this is why.
I'm tearing up, and I can see Lydia in the corner tearing up, but I'm hoping that Keith is going to edit that and use it for our next commercial.
With a mic drop on top of it.
No mic drop.
Hey, spoiler alert, Yanira did an amazing video for the commencement video. So.
Yeah. I just want to say really quickly too that, yeah, I am tearing up. Like just to feel the passion that she speaks with, and to hear people talk like this all the time is so great. It's like, that's why we get up every morning, right? And it doesn't feel like a job when we do so. It's so, to me, it's just amazing to be able to contribute to being a part of really helping you guys transform your life. It really is an amazing experience.
Yes, it is.
Cook, before I open it up to allow the audience, because I'm cognizant of the time, it's 1:20, and I do want everybody to just, the panelists to just ponder their last, their closing remarks. Is there, do you want to jump in and
Only to see if our again, our alums, our esteemed panelists wanted to themselves put a fine point on this conversation. Denise raised such an important consideration, which is the role of the community college today and tomorrow. We are, in the name of access, the institution, right, for our African-American community, for our Puerto Rican community, our Dominican community, our Honduran communities, right, locally. And to be inclusive and diverse is signature to us in many community colleges. But the term really now is about being anti-racist, to be even more intentional and knocking down barriers. Here are the ways that I think about that, because we still ourselves are a work in progress. I hear and I'm so heartened by your experiences. And I also think about when you took math. I'm glad that you took it with a class of less than 25, because math is a tough topic. And I'm glad that you're going to get to know your faculty member. There are other things though, like, did any of us know what office hours really meant when we first went to college? And to understand those are for us, those are for you as students. It's not exactly like there's a manual that says office hours means this. There is a acculturation process that happens with becoming a college student. And it can be difficult and painful. To learn is hard sometimes. We also are very, very conscientious about ensuring that, again, Latina students, African-American students are in these healthcare programs, are in our manufacturing engineering programs. It's that level of intentionality, I think, that we are absolutely striving and seeking. And I don't know if that raises any more considerations or thought from our panelists, but I wanted to be sure that we talked about it with that level of specificity.
I mean, I guess I could just say that without STIC, you know, you wouldn't have those people in those very professions that they are needed in. You know, if you look at the medical field, there's such a gap between representation of someone of color, especially a Black or brown female, that the mortality rate alone in that is evident of systemic racism, right? And so that's why you need programs like STIC, where someone can really just get a nursing degree and then start working and getting into that field and really assisting that community. Engineers, I think it's probably even less than that. The minority rate for engineers is probably less than 5%. But that's where you need it. And that's why I think STIC is such an important, integral part of the community. It's like Yanira said, it is the community. It's the heart and soul of the community. It's the bloodline. It's what allows the community to transfer its own gems into other parts of society. And it starts right here in Springfield. I wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for STIC. And like I said, when you talk about intentionally becoming anti-racist, the law itself, although women in Massachusetts are covered predominantly, they're about 50% of lawyers in Massachusetts. Latino and African-American or Black lawyers are less than 5% of that population. So STIC was that foundation. STIC was that conduit, as some may say, to get me from that first little step to the many, many, many more that I had to take in order to become an attorney. And I think we need community colleges more so than ever before. They provide so much more. I mean, I know that the daycare is over there, which for a lot of people, you wouldn't be able to go to school if you didn't have a daycare, or somewhere where they could, safely leave their children. They've partnered with so many other great organizations in the community as well. And I will forever recommend STIC. So it's important that we, like Denise says, we continue to advocate for our own gems, our own community. So much, we hear bad things about Springfield because, the news is really to get you to think about all the bad stuff. But, we have such highlights here. We have such great stories that come from right here. So thank you for having me on your panel.
Absolutely, absolutely.
To kind of piggyback on that, she mentioned, being intentional about being anti-racist and, the diversity in healthcare fields. I know when I was in my program, I was the only African-American in the program. And then when I went to graduate school, it was counting how many of us were in there versus not, who wasn't, it's not a lot. And even on my unit that I currently work on, there's 2 of us, so there's not a lot of us, but we live in a diverse community. And this is the community's college, it's the college for the community. So whether you're just getting out of high school or whether you've been in your field and you want to come back and get more credits or you're changing fields, this is the college for the Springfield community. And we're in the heart of the city, the school is in the heart of the city. So I think reaching out and us individually being advocates and constantly encouraging people and educating people about our wonderful experience and how we used the resources and the supports of STIC to get us where we are and where we want to continue to go in our lives, to people in our community, whether it be a high school student, whether it be a young Black male or a young Black female who don't really see STIC as an option or don't even know of the resources that STIC might offer. It really is upon us to be advocates for STIC and bring other people in. We can't just leave it up to just the people at the college, but we ourselves also have to be advocates for bringing people of color and diverse backgrounds to the college and telling them about how they can use it to their benefit. I had a great experience at STIC, and I've been to 3 colleges so far. I went to my undergrad and my master's program in STIC, and STIC has had the most lasting experience on my life. When I say I will never forget the support and the encouragement that I received at STIC, not only did they help me educationally, but they helped me with my self-concept. They really encouraged me and pushed me to become a leader and pushed me to do things in my community and do things outside of my comfort zone that really helped me grow as a human being and as a woman, and not just in my educational realm. So STIC has so much to offer: the small class sizes, the support, the tutoring services, the counseling services. All of those things come together, and those are all of the things that you need in a community. I work in mental health, and we're always talking about supports that you have. And when you think about your community and then the supports that hold that community up, STIC is a great example of doing that for the students.
Fantastic. Thank you. So really quickly, because we're winding down on time, I do want to give the folks that are on an opportunity to ask any questions that they might have of the panelists. This has been really fantastic. So there is one question in the chat. Many of you have answered it. It probably came in, but it was around how would you advise young people to, or why would you advise young people to pursue a degree, and what would you say? And so if there are any last minute thoughts around that question, we'll take them. But if not, I'd like to be able to go around really quickly, and in closing, allow you to just, as Dr. Cook says, put a fine point, provide some closing remarks to the viewing audience, to our, again, new and or current students who may be watching or will watch in the future, to our faculty and staff who are also watching. If there's anything that you'd like to share as to how they can continue to help our institution transform lives. Is there anything that you want to share with that person who's trying to figure out, what do they do next in their life, or, how to sort of, make some choices that will help them better their lives? Please share. And I was going to say I can start with Carlos, unless Sheldon, you were going to jump in.
Yes.
And then we'll jump to Carlos.
What you mentioned, as far as why, the question that was in the chat about why you would continue your education, not specific to STIC, but of course I've already said enough about STIC. So this goes to everybody in a wide range of diversity. So we're referring to people of all ethnicities as well as ages. So if they're very young or just graduating, or even seniors that may need to return to school, which I've seen STIC give great opportunities to seniors to re-enter the workforce, which is very necessary for a lot of us. And in doing that, also taking what President Cook mentioned about racism, is that furthering your education and getting the degree, the certifications that you need to get under belt are the things that people cannot take away from you. They become undeniable. It's something that you have earned, you have shown, you've proved, you've achieved it, you've received it, and it can't be taken away from you. And when speaking to the hard work that you put in to receive that, when it can't be taken from you, or it is taken away from you in the sense of an opportunity, I believe our lawyer on the panelists could say, that would be discrimination. And I'm sure you could look up someone regarding that, because the opportunities are going to be slimmer for certain people. Of course, as we all know, that's not a myth. It's not just some made up thing. It's definitely true. Now, when you have those credentials, that's something that, man, you put them in a hard place to be able to take that away from you, because you've done that work. And I'm proud of everybody that's on this panel that I can say that I'm a part of as well, that have made those achievements and can definitely, I'm sure, attest to that fact. And I just want to share that.
Thank you. Carlos?
All right. So yeah, once again, I'll touch on, growing up, I was a notorious underachiever. I had no confidence, no discipline. I was the student that all the teachers were disappointed in, and I always got, Carlos, you have so much potential. That was me. I was the potential kid, but I never did anything with it. And I sure never thought I'd be in UMass. This is a huge achievement for me, let alone Isenberg School of Management. It's really big. It's really challenging to get into. And I was able to go to STIC and, Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society, Dean's List, 3.9 GPA. I did really well, but it starts with yourself. It starts with you and making the decision to do well. And that's what I did. But what STIC did for me, it reinforced that. It gave me more power, and it gave me more discipline to do the things I had to do and that I did. And it gave me the confidence. And that's why I would recommend a community college, to the younger generation. But specifically, I would recommend STIC. It worked for me.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Anyone else? Yanira? Yep. No? Okay. All right. So I just want to say thank you to all of you. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Cook to provide the closing remarks. But what I would just say is that I am so thankful to all of you. You know, it was a real pleasure to speak with many of you. I actually know Sheldon from, we didn't go to the same high school, but we grew up together. And so it was a real pleasure to hear from all of you. It was really inspiring to read many of your bios and to talk with you personally. I am so hopeful that people will watch. And I also just want to take a moment to put in a plug, right? I think that, you know, through the themes that I heard in this discussion, I hear ambassadors, I hear really proud alums, I hear really wanting to make sure that we keep STCC at the top of mind, that people are aware and that they acknowledge that we truly are the community college, that we're accessible and affordable. And so I just would make, you know, a selfish ask that you continue to spread that and to share that within your networks, that all of you, you know, somehow try and collaborate with one another. And at some point when we're able to be back on campus, that you come on site and visit. But even outside of that, just stay tuned to see how you can be connected and play a really important role in the lives of the students that are yet to come to STIC, but that are current and also are at STCC. And so I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Cook. But Dr. Cook, I did make a note, and I'm hoping that you don't mind, that I just wanted to ask if you would just speak briefly, considering all of the High School of Commerce alums that we have on the panel, which honestly did not happen purposely. I just wanted to ask if you could talk about some of the work that STCC is doing with the High School of Commerce. And in particular, I know that we heard a lot about stigma. I also remember Rose saying in her opening statement that it was this fortress of a building that only the smart kids got to go to take a class. So if you would.
Before he says that, I just want to say, I have to shout out my brothers on the panel for these 3.8 and 3.9 GPAs. Because assistant, these, I just want to say these get degrees too. And big ups to both of y'all, smart brothers. I just want to say that. But C's also get degrees for the rest of the audience watching this, okay?
I've never done that well in my life. I'll
But I just think it's important. I think it's important because, you know, I think it's really important for the students that are at Commerce currently and throughout the city, but for them to also know, right, that there are really great people that came out of that High School of Commerce.
We're one and the same.
People, that's right.
We're one and the same.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you. So Dr. Cook?
I appreciate that. Let me do thank yous and I'll land on that wonderful note around commerce. If we were live, right, we would applaud Vice President Hurst. Thank you so much, Denise, for your masterful facilitation today. The ease in which we have these really important conversations is wonderful. Thank you. Thank you to our team behind the scenes as well. Keith, Lydia, Vanetta, thank you for helping put together these important discussions. To our panelists, again, this is our reciprocity. Carlos, Sheldon, Kara, Rose, Yanira, thank you for the time. You are indeed our best voices for future alums to understand why a right choice, a good choice, a smart start really can begin at STCC. To Denise's encouragement, early college is a vital part of how we communicate this, right? Yes, we want to have college for kids to work with young students, 11, 12, 13-year-olds and their families, but we do have that audience, and across the street we have the benefit, if you will, of geography. To have a high school like Commerce right across the street. Yes, I wish, Rose, we could do something about the facade. I wish, you know, there were some state or federal dollars that would allow a airwalk across the street, perhaps. But I digress. One of the things we have created is called Early College Commerce, ECC. We're going to try to up that brand recognition of it, but Early College Commerce puts up to 20 of our credits in the hands of students. I don't believe you'll find it anywhere else in the entire Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Up to 20 credits for up to 200 students is what it is maxed out to be. That is my hope. That is our intention. is that many students awarded up to 20 credits. That's 1/3 of an associate's degree with no cost. Now, granted, a lot of our students already earn a significant amount of financial aid and scholarship when they do come with us. But to do that in high school, that's what we're trying to do in terms of changing the conversation and better merge up those who are already looking ahead, looking forward. So we do have a very special relationship with Commerce. It's tremendous serendipity that so many of you are graduates there. It is important for us to have that kind of relationship with the high school that is just across the street. So I appreciate that prompt, Denise. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. This has been wonderful. We cannot thank you enough.
Fantastic. Thank you all. Thank you. And please be safe.
Springfield Technical Community College, STCC.